Dear participants, Indian Society for Veterinary Surgery welcomes all for this maiden webinar of ISVS. One evening, our President Dr. Simrat Sagar Singh called me to initiate webinars under the aegis of Indian Society for Veterinary Surgery. Dr. Tiwari, Dr. Sindhu, Dr. Divesh, Dr. Nitin Bhatia, Dr. Ashok Kumar and others initiated efforts, and today we are hosting first webinar. Here I wish to profusely thank Honorable Vice Chancellor LUAS, Dr. Gurdal Singh Ji, for permitting ISVS to use the relevant paraphernalia. I think in veterinary professional societies, ISVS is first one to launch the webinars. Now I request President ISVS, Dr. Simrat Sagar Singh, for his introductory remark. Dr. Simrat Sagar Singh, please.
Hello, everybody.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Athel. I think ISVS has taken a wonderful step forward in presenting the first webinar, and in my view, there could not have been a better speaker than Dr. Athel, Professor Athel, who has done extensively on this, the topic which he has selected for today, for repair of fracture, particularly in large animals. And during this webinar, I convey my best wishes to Indian Society on behalf of the Indian Society for Veterinary Surgery, to all the members of Indian Society for Veterinary Surgery and all those who have connected to this Google today for the ISVS webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now the time is right. I request today's speaker, Dr. H.P. Athel, for his insight on external skeletal fixation in veterinary orthopedics. Dr. Athel, please. Dr. Athel.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. In the beginning, I would like to thank the ISVS and especially the executive committee members for giving me this opportunity. Deliver this introductory lecture. So I hope I will not disappoint you. Many of you, maybe some of you are students, some of you are my senior colleagues with a lot of experience, and some may be young teachers. I hope I will be able to communicate to all of you in a whatever the befitting manner. I will try my best. So external skeletal fixation in veterinary. Can you all hear me properly? So I am audible to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Audible, sir. Audible.
Okay, fine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So coming to the external, in any orthopedic applications, foremost thing is the fracture. Fracture is one of the common conditions we come across in our day-to-day clinical practice. So what are the principles of the principle of treatment is first fracture reduction. We reduce the fracture either by closed method or open method. Once it is reduced, it has to be fixed, means immobilized till healing occurs. So bone has the tremendous capacity for healing. So it is unlike soft tissues, bone is replaced by bone. So what we exactly have to do is still provide proper environment for it to heal. The fracture fixation is very important aspect in this. If you take fracture fixation, there are 2-3 methods mainly. External fixation, where we use any cast or fiberglass cast or anything like that from outside. We are not putting anything inside. Like internal fixation is another thing where we go for either plate fixation or nail fixation. And the third type is external skeletal fixation, about which we are going to discuss today. But whatever the technique we use, fracture fixation, while doing it, is preservation of soft tissue is very important. See, it is something like whether it is a carpentry or gardening. It is less of a carpentry and you have to be more of a gardener. You have to preserve the soft tissues. There should be minimal damage to the tissue so that we can provide proper environment for healing. So what exactly is external skeletal fixation? See, it is the stabilizing of a debilitating musculoskeletal injuries like mostly fractures using percutaneous pins. They are percutaneous and transosseous. They pass from the skin and through the bone, and it is coming out from the opposite end, opposite surface. And these fractured fields are connected outside the body to form a rigid frame. The frame may be of any type. So this concept is not new. It is more than 100 years old. And veterinarians like Kramer, Leighton, and Schroeder, they have external more than 100 years. But it is renewed interest. It is recently interest has been renewed in this technique. It is mainly because of the severe bone injuries what we come across nowadays, and advances in the biomechanical studies, and the versatility of this fixator. There are varieties that can be suited for different conditions. It is not very new, and it is very old. It is long as as long as 1897 it was used earlier. And veterinarians like Kramer, Leighton, and Schroeder, they have used one or the other type of ESF technique, and it is used in human and veterinary practice for more than 100 years. But the interest has been renewed in its use in recent years, mainly because of we get a lot of severe bone injury cases, and there's a lot of advancement in the biomechanical studies, and there is versatility of the fixators. We get very versatile fixation devices and techniques nowadays. So in small animal practice, this ESF is widely used to treat fractures and arthrodesis and limb lengthening procedures. And it is also gaining popularity in large animals, mainly for fracture fixation. Like although fracture fixation repair, internal fixation remains viable modality, in recent attention to minimal surgical invasion, it has renewed the interest for external skeletal fixation. And it allows the repair of some of the fractures that are unrepairable by conventional techniques. And long bone fractures where cast immobilization is not appropriate. For example, in tibial fractures or radial fractures, they are much above the carpal and tarsal joints, and open fractures with open wounds, there we cannot use external fixation technique. And over infected fractures where internal fixation is not advised. And some of the comminuted fractures that cannot be reconstructed with even internal fixation technique, and we can go for ESF technique. Like osteomyelitis again, and where we cannot use any other technique, ESF is the choice. And high energy fractures where soft injury is too much and vascular compromise is there, and we have to resort to ESF technique. And other like stabilization of the joints and for transarticular applications, that is like what we do here, that is treatment of Achilles tendon rupture. We immobilize the joint. For that also we can use this. And temporary splintage during the healing of soft tissue tissue. But so many times soft tissue wounds over the joints, they do not heal because of the stretching effect. And in such cases, you have to immobilize the joint temporarily. It can be done. And non-union fractures and with bone grafts and all that, we can use this. And corrective osteotomies of the antebrachial region, mostly in dogs, where distal radius ulna, there it is not, soft tissue is not much. We may not go for internal fixation. This actually ESF technique is better than internal fixation. And limb lengthening procedures, there it is good. And conjunction with internal fixation. For example, in human femur fractures, severely comminuted fractures, internal fixation alone, they may not provide stable fixation. At that time, we can go for unilateral tie-in configurations. And stabilization of very short distal proximal fragment like distal humerus, radial tibial fractures, where you can use hybrid fixation system to immobilize.
Faisal sir, you have to reshare your screen. You have to reshare your screen. Present now again.
Atul sir, your screen is not visible from your end.
Sir, because somebody started present now in between, that is why.
That's why I removed somebody who started presentation.
Okay.
Sir, we request Atul sir to present again from the same slide. Present now again.
I request all others, please do not interfere in between, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, okay, fine.
Thank you. It's fine, sir. Now coming.
Then some of the mandibular maxillary fractures, usually with acrylic external fixators, can be used. Even lumbosacral fractures, luxations, avian limb fractures, and fractures repair in small and exotic animals. All these are indicators. In a variety of cases, we can use it. What is the advantage of this ESF? That is the early return to function with excellent mechanical properties. You can see once the animal comes out of the OT, animal will be able to bear weight on the limb. That it is even better than internal fixation technique. The ability to adjust the frames after the bone fixation. For example, even unlike in external fixation technique or even internal fixation like plating, we cannot adjust if there is any malunion while fixation. Here, after bone fixation also, angular deformities can be corrected. Devise different type of technique, so that way it will be very versatile and preservation of length and alignment. For example, gap is there, we can there is severe comminuted fracture. In such cases, length can be maintained, alignment can be maintained. Another important is ease of implant removal. Unlike internal fixation, there we have to go for our second surgery. But here we can cut the pins from outside itself, and it is very easy to remove the implant. And provision for transarticular application, because whenever we go for the very fracture is very near to the joint. Sometimes plate fixation is difficult, and there we may have to go for arthrodesis. But here, by transarticular fixation, we can avoid the damage to the joint, and preservation of the joint range and motion is possible, and multiple application with reusability of the components. External components, everything can be reused, and only the internal pins, they are not reusable. So that way it is more economical. And provision for dynamization at the site. What will happen sometime when the fracture is very stable, it is not going to heal. In certain cases, we can gradually destabilize it, and that way we can bring about dynamization at the site. We can, by removing one or two of the gradually we can reduce external components, and then you can increase the movement and facilitate healing. If we come of the these they can be as linear or circular devices, ESF, and number of skin surfaces penetrated, like it can be unilateral or bilateral. Unilateral means there is only one skin is introduced, and it is they are not taken out through the opposite skin. Bilateral, the pins, they will come out of both the surfaces. And number of planes involved, like it can be uniplanar, biplanar, or multiplanar. That way it can be type, and in other words, a different frame, either it can be linear frame or circular frame, or it can be hybrid frame. Hybrid means it has the component of both linear and the hybrid, circular fixator. So, or whatever may be the fixator, like linear or circular design, there are three basic units. One is the fixation pins. Normally, they are inserted into the bone to hold the major fragment. Fixation pins, then external connectors. They support the fractured bone. Their connectors may be linear devices or it may be circular rings. Then the linkage devices, and they connect these two, attach the fixation pin to the external connectors. They can be any of the bolts, especially different type of bolt. Linear fixation system, if you talk about the Krishna-Remer KISP device, that is most commonly used device, and later this IMAX SK device and Securo's ESF device, they have come up, because K-splint we cannot use this positive profile pins, and so different other devices have come up. And basically it has components like fixation pin. It can be full half pin or full pins. Half pins are used in unilateral fixators. So mostly here they are threaded pins are used. end threaded pins are used in half pins. And full pins. Full pins, where pins pass from one end to another end, one surface to another surface. It can be threaded centrally, or it can be even plain smooth pins also. So these are the pins. It can be positive profile or negative profile. For negative profile means the thread is carved within the core of the pin. Positive profile is actually thread is outside the core of the pin. So positive profile pin is definitely better than the negative profile pin. Negative profile pin is the weak threaded non-threaded pin junction is the weakest point in that. Next point is next. They are made up of stainless steel. The others are the titanium alloys, carbon fibers, or aluminum. They have been used, but most common is more stainless steel. Titanium is very costly, and carbon fibers and aluminum. Aluminum is not that strong, but mostly the stainless steel is used. And these linkage devices, the link between internal fixation that pins and sidebars. If you take the fixation configurations, type 1, that is unilateral uniplanar fixators. All the fixation pins and the connecting frame occupy only single plane, like as seen here. And usually they are applied to the cranial middle surface of the radius or tibia and lateral surface of the femur or humerus, where you cannot use these bilateral fixation devices. And fixation pins are normally they are half pins in this case. And type 1B is unilateral biplanar configurations. They are mostly used in radius and tibia, like craniomedial or craniolateral surfaces of this tibia, and that cannot be used in humerus or femur. And this bilateral uniplanar design, that is type 2. They utilize full fixation, full pin splints, and cannot be placed in femur and humerus because that is the bone is very close to the body, and we cannot use full pins there. And mostly they are used in tibia and radius. They are most and applied mediolateral planes. Always they are used in mediolateral planes, and that can be maximal type 2A. Means all the pins are actually can be bilateral, or some of the pins, like unilateral, or this is called as type 2B fixator. And type 3 fixator, it combines both this type 1 and type 2, and they're placed approximately at 90 degrees to each other. They can't be applied in femur and humerus, and they are not indicated in humerus and femur, but in large animals, heavy animals, and tibia and radial fractures, they can be used. In a large animal systems, if you talk about it, hanging limb fin cast, it has been used since very long. That is also primitive, you can call it primitive type of ESF, where one or two pins are passed in the proximal fragment. Here it is used to anchor the cast. That is a very primitive type of ESF. Here it is not, the pin is not used to actually immobilize the bone. It is actually used to stabilize hold the cast, and completely threaded. So once it is fixed, what will happen is, once it is fixed, after fixing, if you turn this sidebars in one direction, it can reduce the fracture. In other direction, actually, if you turn it, it can compress the fracture. And this is a novel design. This can be used in straight bones like metacarpal fractures, metatarsal fractures, or radius ulnar fractures, even for transcarpal fixations like this, but not in tarsal. You cannot immobilize the proximal, metatarsal, or distal tibial fractures using this technique. The next is the Ulyssero technique. They are called circular ESF. They're popularly called as Ulyssero. The scientific physician who has developed this technique is a Russian scientist, and it has also been it was started in early 80s. It was started in human practice, and then it came to small animal practice, 80s, 90s. Here, this relatively small diameter pins, they are called normally K wires. They are fixed under tension. Their cross pins are fixed under tension. This wire is more stronger than untensed wire. So based on this principle, and they are connected to so this is the circular fixation technique, And what wires are required, K wires and rings, and wire fixation bolts, and threaded rods, nuts, and the wire tensioner. This is what is required here. See, coming to the wires, it can be plain wire or beaded wire. These are beaded wires are called as olive wires. This is commonly used in ESF technique, circular fixation technique. Once we use these beaded wires in opposite direction like this, how it is shown in here, and it will reduce the movement between the fracture fragments. And also, it will reduce the translation of the pin. So these beaded wires are commonly used. And wire fixation bolt. The wire is fixed to the ring using the fixation bolts. It can be cannulated like this. Cannulated means there is a hole in the base of the bolt head, and this is a slotted. And cannulated bolt is better, especially in large animals, because the less chances of slippage of the pin is there. Whereas in slotted, in small animals, it can be used this type of slotted also. Otherwise, in large animals, this is must be fixed without any deformation. When tightening, it should not be deformed or bent at the level of tightening. These are the wire tensioners. There are different types of tensioners, mostly for human this thing, and for veterinary applications we have to develop, because we require relatively larger diameter, like 3 to 4 mm pins are required in circular fixation in large animals. So we require wire tensioners, modified wire tensioners. And for large animal, these applications, these rings can be used using can be prepared using mild steel to reduce the cost of the implant, because this is mild steel is it will be very economical, and they can be used, and they are found very effective. And a hybrid fixator is a combination of a ring and the linear fixator. It is indicated in fractures with the juxta-articular bone fragment. It is very prone fragment is very joint, so where we cannot use the whole ring. So because in such cases we can use this, like both circular and linear component, we can use that. And similarly in fracture fractures, yeah, not use the line. Use all of you can listen, no? Hello, everybody can listen.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sorry. What is the advantage of this ESF? System which can accept numerous lengthening, transport, angular, translational, and rotational deformities even after bone fixation. That is the advantage. And elongation of the frame allows for distraction osteogenesis. What exactly is distraction osteogenesis? See, when you are immobilizing a fracture, if the gap is there, if the gap is more than half the diameter of the bone cortex, it is not going to heal normally. So you cannot keep a large gap. If you want to lengthen it, what you can do is you can fix it like this, and in every week, you can gradually extend the central rod. You can actually keep on extending. You can increase the length gradually, 1 or 2 millimeters every week. So there will be new bone formation, and there will be complete bone union later on. This limb lengthening procedures are normally it is used in human, like polio affected patients like that. For limb lengthening procedure, this technique was earlier used. And advantages fracture, final fracture and fixations. We don't use other advantage. And this standard ESF techniques like linear or circular, what is it? Rigid fixation, but are very heavy. And aluminum and carbon fibers, they have been used, but they're lighter. But carbon fiber is very costly. Probably we cannot use it in veterinary applications. And the size and the shape of the connecting bars and rings, they are similar. And fixation of the transverse pin is dictated by the size and location of the clamp and ring. We have to fix the pin and where at the site of the clamp or at the location of the ring itself. So that is a limitation. That's why another technique is like acrylic and epoxy pin fixation technique has come into effect. The sense like acrylic, like polymethyl methacrylate, dental acrylic, or hoof repair acrylics are used, and epoxy external component. Also, pins are passed similar to the eraser fixation technique, but here it is not the rings. Rings are not used, and instead these pins are bent and the sidebars are formed, and over which this epoxy or acrylic it will be fixed, used as external component. Advantage of this is it can be contoured to any shape, and pin can be placed anywhere. Pin size is variable. Different variable size of the pin can be used. It need not be related to the pinhole that is that fixation hole size of the fixation device. And free-form fixture earlier used for mandibular maxillary fractures, but now they have been found effective. Slight modification in dogs, sheep and goats, in cows and foals also weighing about 100 kg. Ability. What is the advantage? Ability to contour the connecting bars to match any fracture configuration, and fixation pins of any diameter can be used here, and need not be in the same longitudinal plane, because all the pins need not be in the same plane. Even if they come out in different planes, they can be joined and the fixation can be achieved. And light in weight, and placing the positive profile pins can be easily done, and most importantly, it is very less expensive. Now coming to the biomechanics, when we are applying the technique, there are plenty of different designs and the ESF technique. Then we have to decide which technique is used in which type of fractures and all that. For that, little bit of biomechanics is also, we should know how it actually depends on that. The material characteristic of the bone, and material properties of the fixator components, and the design of the external fixator. If you think that is material means apparent density and anatomical position. In diaphyseal bone has apparent more density and more cylindrical shape than the metafacial epiphyseal bone. So wherever you put the pin, it is better if you can fix the pin in the cortical area, not in the metafacial or in the diaphyseal region. Coming to the fracture configuration, see, you can see if the fracture is exactly transverse. So, and if there is a line alignment, the fracture forces can be transmitted through the bone. So, whatever the technique you use, that all the load is not actually applied on the fixator component. That was this one first slide. This is. Second, there is another situation where there is long oblique fracture or spiral fracture. You use circular, maybe circlage wires. Here, both the bone can sustain little bit of load, but it cannot completely bear the weight. External fixator component should be able to bear at least 50% of the weight. So accordingly, you have to use the design. And third component, third type is where there is complete fracture site is completely, there is gap is there, severe comminution is there. So there it cannot actually bear the load, and all the load is actually should be transmitted to the external fixator component. So based on that, you have to select the design. Coming to the material properties, again, you see stainless steel is sufficiently strong. Mild steel, as I said, it is economical. It's not as strong as stainless steel. Aluminium and carbon fibers, they are light in weight, they're strong. Of course, aluminium is not as strong as stainless steel, but less strong than stainless steel. So you have to have relatively thick external components, maybe ring or side bar. If it is made of aluminium, it should be relatively more thicker. Carbon fiber, it is lightweight, but it's costlier. So they also delaminate when pins or wires are actually clamped. So it cannot be reused, unlike stainless steel component. Acrylic polymers is around 19 mm diameter. Acrylic is almost equal to 4.8 mm diameter stainless steel bar. So it should also be relatively of larger diameter side bars or external component to achieve the similar strength. And design of the fixator, like frame. If you see the unilateral frame and it is less strong, then if you go for bilateral frame, it is more stronger, and multiplanar, it is more stronger. You have to decide based on the weight of the animal or based on the fracture configuration. You have to decide and which type has to be used. Number of pins. In each frame, there should be at least minimum 2 pins should be there, just like plating. At least 2 screws should be fixed in each fragment. It is a minimum thing. But if you increase the number of pins, there will be fixation is more stable, definitely. But you should also weigh based on the type of fracture, weight of the animal. It can be either 2 or 3 or 4 in each fragment. So if it is more and it is more stronger, as I already said, negative profile pin and positive profile pin. Positive profile is always better than negative profile. Pin diameter, whenever you use if the pin diameter is more, strength is always more. But there is a limit up to which you can increase the diameter of the pin. If the diameter of the pin is more than 20% of the diameter of the bone, there will be weakening at the site of the pin bone interface. So the chances of refracture is there. So you should be definitely lesser than that. The pin length again, if there is fixation, if the pin length is more, fixation is less stable. Because that means to say, if the fixation is external component is more away from the bone, fracture stability is less. So always you have to bring the fracture fragment, bring the external fixators very close to the fracture site, and it should not be you should not touch the skin. At least a 1 to 2 centimeter gap should be there, and it should be as close to the bone as possible. Fixation will be more stronger. Pin placement again, if it is a unilateral fixator, you cannot pass the pin perpendicular to the bone. It has to be angled at about 45 degrees. So that pin pull-out strength will be stronger. But if it is a bilateral fixator, normally they are fixed. It is actually passed perpendicular through and through the bone, and can be used. And pin should be fixed very close to the fracture site. If it is more away from the fracture site, the stability is less. But it should not be too close also. In small animals, maybe about 1 centimeter can be half to 1 centimeter can be left, and in large animals 1 to 2 centimeter away from the fracture site. It should not be too away from the fracture line. And when you talk of general principles, if you any type of the technique, what is the general principle of ES application? See, any orthopedic application, it is a very painful condition and it should be done under general anesthesia. Dorsal recumbency with the limb, suspended like this, it is very ideal. Very ideal. We can pass the pin. You can go around the animal patient and you can pass the pin anywhere. But most of the places, especially in large animals, ruminants, because of the anesthetic complications, also sometimes it may not be possible. Then you have to keep the animal in lateral recumbency. But if you keep the animal in lateral recumbency, the position of the limb should be actually extended outside the table, because you can pass the pin through and through very easily. Otherwise, it may get through and through the bed. So that way, the limb should be extended outside the table, and site should be aseptically prepared for, just like any orthopedic preparations. And the proper site, the placement of the pin, proposed site should be chosen. It can be marked either using a marker or anything. Wherever you want to put the pin, you have to mark it. And then about 0.5 to 1 centimeter skin incision made at the chosen site. Like they are called as release incisions. You should not pass the pin without doing any release incisions. Actually, it will necrose the tissues around the pin pin placement, and it leads to later on sepsis and the pin tract discharges. So always release incisions you have to give. Incision should be on longitudinal, like dorsal to ventral of the limb, not transversely, because just as a as blood vessels travel from dorsal to ventral side, and you have to give incision should be also in the same direction, and then proper diameter pin is selected. Again, technique, pin selection can be different. It can be 2.5, 3 mm in small animals in linear fixation techniques, 5 to 8 mm in large animals. It can be smooth or threaded pins in linear fixators. It can be anything, but threaded pins gives better fixation, especially in large animals. And 1.5 to 1.2 to 1.5 mm pins are enough in small animals, and 3 to 4 mm smooth pins are in for circular fixators. And a small hole is pre-drilled in the bone at the chosen site. That is also very important. We should not actually drill at this site using an electric drill pin directly. It will not actually, it will lead to a lot of necrosis around the site, and also most likely that pin will get stuck. You will not be able to pass the pin directly. So it will later on lead to complications. Better you have to pre-drill using about 0.1 to 0.2 millimeter smaller drill bit. And this pre-drilling is especially important when you are using a large diameter pins in linear fixators. In when you are using small animals and small diameter pins, circular fixator, and this is not generally done. And selected fixation pins are selected inserted medial lateral or medial side. It always, this is in any of the fixation, either it is through linear fixator or circular fixator. Pins are always passed from in medial lateral planes, not from cranial caudal planes, to avoid major vessels, nerves, and muscular attachments. Pin should be inserted at the center of the bone. So you have to, using your finger, you have to measure the you have to hold the bone, and you have to try to put the pin at the center. You have to insert the pin at the center of the bone. That will provide better stability. And pins are introduced using low speed, high torque power drill. You should not use hand drills, and because it will lead to wobbling, and there will be larger pin hole gets bigger, and there will be migration movement will be there in later stage. And you have to use power drills, but low speed is important, because if you use high speed, there will be a lot of necrosis, and it leads to later on infection. Drill in small pulses, especially in what will happen in large animal applications. It is many times when you are passing the pin, it will not directly in one go, it will not go through and through. Many times you get stuck in between. So in such cases, what you have to do is you go up to a particular level, stop for few seconds, at least about 30 seconds, and then at that time you keep pouring cold normal saline at the site of pin insertion. It will reduce the thermal necrosis again, and then you may slightly withdraw the pin, and then again you pass it. So that way you have to do it, pass it in smaller small pulses. It will reduce the complications in later stage. And at least 2 fixation pins, cross pins in cases of CSF, are required in each fragment. And it is not that one pin in any fragment is not enough. When the fracture is very close to the joint, then you have to pass the pin in adjoining bone. At least again you are taking the adjoining bone, at least 2 pins are passed in the adjoining bone. That you have to take care. And fixation pins should spread along the entire length of the segment. If the whole length of the segment it is spread, the load is equally distributed, and there are less chances of refracture at the pin track site. And that's why the fixator should span the whole length of the bone. And while you are fixing, the farthest pins, like the proximal most and the distal most pins. Even if it is a circular fixator, the proximal most ring and the distal most ring is first fixed. That will help reduce the bone fragment and align the fixator very well. And then you can fix the other pins can be passed. Transfixation pins are connected to connecting rod either through clamps, not in circular fixator, the wires or the wires are fixed to the ring using slotted bolts. Okay, in epoxy fixation, these pins are bent. There is no actually connecting devices. They are bent and they are incorporated within this epoxy column. So in circular fixation, is wires are tensioned. Unlike in linear fixator, circular fixator is wires are tensioned. Once it is tensioned, then it is tightened and bent. And there should be a distance between the bone and external ring should be minimum, as I said in the beginning, because it will increase the stability. If it is more, of course, in all the time. For example, in tibial fractures, it is not possible to use very small diameter rings because proximal bone is very wider. So, whereas in metatarsal fractures, radius ulnar fractures, there is no need to use very heavy rings, very large rings. You can use smaller rings. If you come to the applications like this is, for example, linear, if there were two pins are passed in proximal and distal bones are passed in 45-degree angle approximately, and then the external connector is connected, and then these clamps are positioned, and after positioning the clamp, other pins are actually passed, taking this clamp as a guide. So that will actually help in actually properly inserting the pins at desired level. That way you have to pass in linear fixation systems. And bilateral applications, actually most of these, mostly large animals, you cannot go for linear system. Large animals, you have to go for bilateral system. The novel bilateral fixator, what we are using, and in this case, the 2 or 3 pins are passed in the proximal and distal fragment. Here they are threaded pins. Threaded pins passed in proximal distal fragment. Take care, they should be passed almost they should be parallel to each other, and they are also in the same plane. And there is slight deviation is not an issue, but if there is severe deviation, the linear fixation placement will be difficult. But it should be parallel, and they will be in the same plane. And then two nuts are passed through all the pins on either side. Once these nuts are passed, then this external fixator assembly along with the fixation bolt, they can be positioned at any level, and they are positioned and they brought close to it, and they are inserted at one end. And then similarly, another from other side also you can put one more linear that is sidebar along with that. And then once two are fixed, and then you have to bring it closer to the fracture side, bring it closer to the bone. Many times if the pins are passed very, very properly, and they will come very, very neatly. If there is some deviation, you may not be able to directly bring it with your hand pressure. You may have to actually hammer it down using any hammer or something, and you have to bring it very close to the bone, as close to the skin as possible, leaving only about 2 to 3 centimeter gap between the skin and the. Once that is done, and you can tighten it from both sides. From both sides, you can tighten the nuts. From both sides, you can tighten the nuts and very close, and bring it close to this fixation bolt. That will help increase the rigidity. And once that is done, that here there is that is hexagonal bolt is there in the sidebar. By turning it, you can actually either reduce it or compress the fracture. Final adjustment can be done. Once final adjustment is done, then these are the check nuts. You can tighten these check nuts on either side, and now it will become completely rigid. Fixation this will be completely rigid, and then extra length of the pin you can cut it, and this cut end of the pin you can seal it using M-seal or any other thing, so that it will not hurt the contralateral limb, or while you are doing any post-operative care. So for that you have to use either it can be cotton or bandage can be used, or M-seal is better. Now, how to apply this circular fixation? They have to be pre-assembled, circular component, and different rings are they connected using the other sidebar. You see, first actually these two rings should be connected using 4 sidebar, 90 degree to each other, opposite to each other. Then you can add additional rings in the proximal and distal side, and at least minimum 4 rings are required. And based on the fracture site, fracture location, maybe 5 or 6 can be attached either proximally at end or distal end. Then it should be inserted into the limb, and the limb should be held at the center of the ring. And this is possible, especially in metacarpal, metatarsal fractures or radial fractures. But it may not be possible in cases of tibial fractures where the bone is not exactly at the center. We may not be able to exactly align it, but you should adjust in such a way that the rings do not touch the skin. Once that is done, you hold it then proximally and distally using these beaded wires. One beaded wire is fixed at the level of the proximal ring and one at the distal ring, making sure that it is held in position. Then other rings, one pins are passed in from other rings also at the level of other rings, and beaded pins should be in opposite direction. And later on, the cross pins, other pins can also be one by one. You can put it beads in opposite direction. While passing the pin, one pin can be just passed above the ring and one can be passed just below the ring to avoid any collision at the level of the medullary cavity. And that way it will be easy for later on, it will be easy to fix it also. So it will not reduce the strength, it will increase the strength because it will reduce the damage at the pin bone interface. There will be little gap and there will be more stable, better. Once that is done, now we have to tighten the pin and that bolt at the from this the end of this bead. Wherever the bead end is there, the nut is tightened on all the pins. Later on, from the other end, you have to provide tension using the tensioner. Under tension, the pin under tension, the nut should be tightened and then it is again bent and it should be cut. So that way, one by one, in all the rings, you have to tension it and then bend it and cut it. Later on, you can see at the fracture side if there is any gap and all that. You can bring about compression by tightening this, loosening and tightening this central rods. You can bring closer and it can be tightened. So that way, final adjustment can be, little adjustment can be at the later stage. Now, application of the epoxy technique. Now, if you take that, if it is linear, it is very simple. Pins are passed from medial to lateral like this, and the pins should be again in the same plane. When you are passing the linear fixator, it should be the same plane. Slight displacement is not an issue. Then these pins in the proximal fragment, they should be bent downwards, and distal fragment pins should be bent upwards, and they are connected using wires or maybe adhesive tapes or anything. And then you have to make that way, you have to make a temporary scaffold. Once that is done, you have to take epoxy, that is MC, monomer and polymer. You have to mix it very nicely, and you should get the uniform. It should be uniform depth stage. Then you apply it by incorporating the pins within that. So and then allow it to dry for about half an hour to 45 minutes. It will become very dry and it will be very strong. It will be difficult to cut it out later. And this is bilateral multiplanar, that is epoxy technique. It is same, just like what you are doing it in circular fixator. Pins are passed in the cross pins are passed. When cross pins are passed in different places, at least 2 in the proximal fragment, 2 in the distal fragment. And pin, it is always ideal to be the angle maybe around 90 degrees. It is very ideal, but it in a circular fixation. Similarly here also, but it is ideal is not possible in all the cases, and in majority clinically it is more than 60 degrees between the pins. That is acceptable, and it will provide stability. Once that is done, proximal pin is bent downwards and distal pin is bent upwards, and they are fixed using adhesive tape and make a frame. Again, these two, they are connected using the connectors. This will help actually to reduce the movement of the pins in later stage. There will not be any translation of the bone fragment, translation of the pin, and that will be fixation will be more stable by connecting these two sidebars proximally and distally. Then apply this. You can make slight adjustment. Both fragments can be adjusted at this stage. Later on, you put this MC and wait for 45 minutes. Circular design is also same. You have to just like multiplanar design. Then using any of the wire, it need not be any stainless steel wire. Any wire can be used to create a ring like this, and over that you can apply this, and this will be very rigid. Very animals maybe in about 100-150 kg body weight animals also in metacarpal metatarsal fractures, this epoxy fixation can be done. This sidebar, the thickness should be about 20 to 25 mm, and pins in large animals in 100-120 kg body weight animals, pins should be 3 mm pins, and we cannot use more than 3 mm pins in epoxy fixation technique because of the limitation. We cannot bend it, and we cannot provide tension also, so that way it will not be useful for very heavy animals. Let us see what type of techniques can be used in different bones. If you see the humerus and femur, fractures of the humerus and femur are not suited for ESF as such because of the anatomical constraints, and they are very close to the body. But the bilateral is not possible, quadrilateral not possible. Only unilateral configurations are used, that too along with the internal fixation technique. When internal fixation like intramedullary pin, you are not sure how much stable it is, and you can additionally use this either epoxy fixation technique or any of the linear fixation unilateral technique in humerus and femur fractures. Tibia is the most common bone, where this ESF is used. Placement of pin is more difficult in tibia because of this bone is not very circular. It is the triangular in shape. The placement is slightly difficult. Circlage wires may be used to reduce the bone fragments temporarily because it is angularly placed, especially in large animals. It is not possible to reduce the bone fragment and align it without the use of circular circlage wire. Hemicirclage wire will help to reduce the fragment and align it. So along with that, you can use linear fixators, circular fixator. And most principal neuromuscular structure is presently on the caudomedial surface. So always pins are passed medial to lateral between peroneus longus and lateral digital extensor muscles proximally, and lateral digital extensor and long digital extensor muscles distally. However, you don't have to remember the name of these muscles, but you can palpate it, you can pass it between the muscles. You can pass the pin medial to lateral. So medial to lateral, it is always very safe. You can close your eyes and pass it because there is no nerve or muscle vessels will come, and it is there. They are the safe corridor. Diaphyseal fractures, the 3 pins are placed in the proximal fragment and distal fragment. For a distal fracture, they are very close to the tarsus. The pins should be placed in the metatarsus. For transarticular fixation should be done. So this is the epoxy fixation. So this is a type of fracture. You can see where it is necrosed bone, and here we cannot use any of the internal fixation or external fixation technique. We had to go for some external skeletal fixation technique. We opted for that is MCL, that said yes, and it healed nicely. And this is another technique. This is another case. You can see this is bone is very white. It is dead. So what I want to tell you here is there is no need to remove this necrosed bone. We have to clean it nicely and put the antibiotic and clean it, and you have to put the sutures. And you can close this, but not completely. There should be gap between the sutures so that it will be helpful for drainage and dressing. And there is no need to remove the dead bone. If you remove the dead bone, there will be gap and healing will be hampered. And this dead bone will act as a graft. It will act as a bone inducer. Once there will be new bone formation, this dead bone gets separated from the host bone, and then it will be mobile. At that point of time, you can actually remove the bone, and then there will be healing, will be more smooth healing will be there. So this is another case where it is fracture and dislocation of the tarsal joint. In such cases, internal this is even this is a very simple technique. In metatarsus, tarsals or metacarpals, you can go for crossing the pin, but it is not necessary. Here you can use even single pin also mediolaterally. You can cross the pins in the tibia. That way, this is sort of hybrid fixator. that can be done. And here again, you need not pass the pin through all the 5 metatarsal bones and metacarpal. It is not possible. Even if they are passed through 2 or 3 bones, that would be enough. And you should make sure, of course, you don't use very large diameter pin. 1.2 to 1.5 mm pins are enough, even in heavy animals, heavy dogs. I mean, it is enough. So pin size is also important. Don't, because these metatarsal bones are small bones, you cannot use very large diameter pins. So this is a case of tibial fracture where epoxy was used. So this was the worst case. Of course, this was of course we can definitely say this is fit for amputation. But even such cases can be treated using this technique, and you do it nicely, clean it nicely, and then try to oppose this soft tissues. Soft tissue, as I said in the beginning itself, soft tissue is very important to provide vasculature for healing. So they will also, when you bring the soft tissue skin opposed, it will help to reduce the bone fragment also. Even if there is gap and you will not be able to completely close it, no problem. You try to oppose as much as possible, and then you can apply this fixator. Okay, you can apply the pins, and this is another case. So this was the complication of POP case. You can see almost it was necrose, but completely necrose bone. And here, simple technique. It is very cost effective. Animal could be recovered, except for sloughing off. It was sloughed off in the beginning itself. So otherwise, animal completely could be recovered because of this technique. This could not have been treated with any of the internal fixation technique. See, like this. This is a very common tarsal luxation, and you see the animal bearing very good weight. That's so fixation is very stable with this technique. This is another case like this. As I said, in tibia, in cows and all that, you can use this one in animals weighing about 100-150 kg. So here it is difficult to reduce the bone fragment. Then you have to reduce it using circlage wire. Then you can apply this medial to lateral like this. This is another case of there is bone is almost necrose. In such cases, you can close this, and there should be gap between the bone gap between the sutures for drainage. Then you can apply it; it will heal. And the bilateral linear fixator is not advised in tibial fractures. But of course, in very young animals, lightweight animals may be used. But of course, it should be used along with the internal fixation like circlage wire. Then only you can go for a linear fixation. Otherwise, better to go for circular fixation technique. They like this in heavy animals also, distal tibial fractures. This circular fixator will provide very good stability. Coming to the fractures of the radius and ulna, there's mostly, you see, small animals, mostly linear fixated designs are used. And in close fractures, in large animals, transfixation, pinning in casting is the most suited technique. And in cows weighing about less than 100 kg, you can again go for epoxy pin fixation. And animals less than 150 kg, cast spanning can be up to only anti-brachial. Whereas in heavy animals, full limb cast is needed. If fracture is in the radius, the whole limb cast is required in the heavy animal. Bilateral linear fixator or circular fixator is indicated in compound or infected fractures. Open fractures, this is a linear circular fixation is needed. And neuromuscular structures are located in the caudomedial aspect. Caudomedial. So always, as I said, all the bones, nearly in every bone, lateral to medial and medial to lateral is very good, and it is very safe. Distal diaphyseal epiphyseal fractures, again, transarticular fixation is done. For example, like this. It can be bilateral, unilateral biplanar fixator, or it is a hybrid fixator, or bilateral fixators can be used in small animals in all the cases. Even circular fixator can be done. So this is epoxy pin fixation in such cases. You see where animal is very technique is same. You have to cross the pin in the proximal fragment and distal fragment, and they are connected and then joined to make a frame, and epoxy is applied. See, this is a case of fracture, and it was non-healing skin wound. So whenever the skin wound is near the joint, there will be constant movement. It is not going to heal. In such cases, you can go for this epoxy pin fixation like this, and definitely it is going to heal. Here, as I said, in metacarpals and metatarsal, single pins, 2 or 3 pins, medial to lateral, you can pass it. This is another case of like this epoxy. This is also a hybrid fixation technique. And the acrylic dental acrylic can also be used like this. But of course, if it is dental acrylic, you have to have one PVC tubing. That pin application is same, pin is fixed similarly, and then these tubes are actually inserted into the pin. Okay, and then that acrylic is poured into this, and then finally it can be combined, and extra length of the pin can be cut and they are bent. So like this, you see animal is bearing very good weight. This is a very light weight and it is very economical also. See, this is another case where the radial compound fractures can be treated like this. This was a case in one bone, one bilateral fracture. The one is acrylic and one other is epoxy material. So both are almost equal as far as fixation stability is concerned. And this is, as I said, this epoxy technique is also it's very good for that is corrective and that is anti-brachial deformities like this. You know, remove the, and then you see you can fix it. Sometimes using the plate will cause exposure of the plate will occur and complications may occur. But here it is not like that, and the very small diameter pins are passed, chance complications are less. Whenever pin is passed, you have to see that they should not penetrate. Yeah, it should enter the fracture site and it should not enter the joint. You have to make sure that they are away from the fracture site and they are away from the joint also. That is the only thing you have to take care. This is a distal radial fracture in a goat. This is in the small ruminants. This is the best technique because this is very cheap. In 100, 200 rupees, this can be achieved. Very good fixation can be achieved. This is a case of multiple fracture. So you can see the radial fracture, metacarpal fractures. You see both multiple fractures. It was treated like this using same pin, 2 mm pins, and it should not enter the joint. You should be away from the joint. You should be close to the fracture site. This one you have to take care. Other it has healed. It is a very good technique here also. In calves, as I said, the transarticular fracture, distal radial fractures. So you can go for epoxy fixation. 2 pins should be passed in the metacarpal bone. 2 or 3 pins in the proximal fragment of the radius. So that way you can immobilize it. Here 3 mm pins are passed and epoxy is about 20-25 mm thickness. And in heavy animals, if the fracture is close fractures, then you can go for transfixation pin. Then you have to go for either linear fixator or circular. Linear fixator would be okay in radius because the limb is straight. So linear fixation will provide stable fixation. Or can also be used. Circular fixator can be used, or the hybrid fixation technique can also be used. Coming to the metacarpal and metatarsal fractures, the most common fractures in large animals are metacarpal metatarsal fractures, and most of the times they are compound fractures, infected fractures requiring external skeletal fixation. And if they are simple fractures, they respond favorably to external coaptation. ESF can be either linear or circular, indicated only in open, infected, comminuted, and unstable fractures. Otherwise, plaster cast application or fiberglass cast application is good enough in metacarpal metatarsal fractures. Minimum soft tissues and neuromuscular tissues are located in the caudolateral and the caudomedial aspect of the bone. So here also the pins are passed from medial to lateral. In close fractures, the pinning and casting is done. Okay, and in the heavy animals, the full limb cast. Even if the fracture is in the metacarpal bone, the cast should span up to the shoulder joint. In calves less than 100 kg, the epoxy fixation is ideal. Fracture near the carpal and dorsal joints, that the transarticular fixation is done, and in forelimbs, linear fixator, in hind limbs, circular fixator is indicated. Because tibia is angularly placed there, either it is a proximal metatarsal fracture immobilization, you cannot use linear fixator, circular fixator is indicated. And if the fracture is at the distal end of the metacarpus or metatarsus, pin should be placed in the digits of phalanges, first digit or second digit, we can use it. Like in young animals, you see same epoxy pin fixation technique, you can use it. And here again, about animals more than 50-60 kg, 3 mm pins are needed. If it is more than around 30-40 kg and 2 mm, 40 to 50 kg, 2.5 mm pins, they are required. And about 20 to 25 mm diameter sidebars. In dogs, see dogs also we can go for epoxy fixation like this. Here again pins can be crossed or single pins can be used. Animal, you can 2 or 3 pins you can fix in the proximal fragment. The fracture is very close to the fracture. Here there is no need to stabilize the proximal fragment. Instead of the proximal fragment, you have to stabilize the proximal bone. So when your whole joint is stabilized, this fracture is stabilized. So article always see like just ended of the cartography. This is again I can put pin in the phalanx, 1 pin in the second phalanx. You can metacarpal bone, you can cross. This is the advantage of this. So this is metacarpal. Even in foals, you see, foal weighing about less than 100-120 kg, same technique can be done. Again, you have to be careful not to enter the joint. You can cross the pin here, and you should not enter the. You should avoid the fracture side. This is a circular design used in a calf. See, good healing, very good weight bearing. The external fixation provides very stable fixation. This is another case. You can see the bone is necrosed. It is white color. You can see, and also there was a very large gap of about 125 centimeter. Here again the same technique was used. You can see this because the bone loss was there. So as it was compound, we did not go for any graft or anything. But to our surprise, by 45 days, there was complete new bone formation was there. Even that much of gap was got filled. That means though there was bending of the pins and all that, this was there. Complete bone formation occurred. It got healed, and this dead bone later on it gets separated from the post bone. And once you while removing the pin, we can remove of this proximal fragment. By then there will be complete bone union. So that way this ESF can help. See, for example, this is a case of in a foal. This is also a dead bone. There is no need to remove this bone piece and properly wash it and try to close the skin and then apply this ESF and it will heal. This is another case, okay, near the joint. This complete healing can occur. This is proximal metacarpal fracture. Again, transarticular fixation. You know, here, if you can see the sidebar, if it is too long, when you are using in a heavy animals, 120, 150 kg body weight, and if there are only 2 sidebar, you can put one more connector between these two sidebars. This will help again strengthen the fixation. That will not that will provide more stable fixation. Like this, no, it should be actually this should be connected. That will provide greater stability to fixation. And you see, like just like this, it can be done. Even whenever bone gap is there, bone graft can also be fixed using this small diameter pins. These pins, they can be incorporated along with this sidebar. So even grafting for technique also, this technique can be used. This tarsal application in proximal metatarsal fractures. See, like this healing can occur very nicely, and the joint function was not affected much. See, in heavy animals, the compound fractures of the metacarpus, metatarsus, either you should go for linear or circular fixators, and this will provide very stable fixation because they are straight bones. They can be brought very close to the fracture site, very close to the bone. Very rigid fixation can be achieved like this, and good healing can occur. This was an infected fracture, and it completely healed, and you can see it. So this linear ESF provides very stable fixation even in infected compound fractures. And circular fixators can also be used, and this has the advantage in the sense you can put the pin in different directions, so that it is more versatile. And compared to that, of course, in very heavy animals, this circular fixator is better. Now again here, what you have to make sure, if it is proximal tibial metatarsal fracture, yeah, distal tibial fracture, for transtarsal applications, see this Achilles tendon and will be there, and you have to be very careful here. You sometimes it may touch the joint area, rings. So you can sometimes you may not be able to use very large diameter rings. If you use very diameter rings, fixation will be less stable. Then you can make like this fragments in the sense. Skin will not be there, and I'm very comfortable while walking. This post-operative management is very important in external fixation techniques, especially in large animals. It is about 48 to 72 hours is very important. Animal fall on him, so we don't have to get up and may damage it. So be careful, you have to make sure that animal will not fall on the same side, and you should be able to later on gradually animal will sit down on the opposite side. After 48 72 hours, animal will gradually accustom to it, and it will sit down and get up on its own. So first 24-48 hours it may require your attention. And regular antiseptic dressing of the skin bone, wire bone interface is required, along with the open wound. Open wound should be dressed regularly, and broad spectrum antibiotics you have to give for that. How long you have to give depends on the fracture state of the fracture and the wound. At least you require maybe about 1 week to 10 days antibiotic in severely infected cases. If you have to give prolonged antibiotic, it is better off in between for a few days, and then get it check the antibiotic sensitivity, you do it, and then you go for replace the antibiotic. And normally we will not get any osteomyelitis like infection. Only pin track sepsis is there. Most of the cases with the proper technique is used and proper implant is used. And frame wrapping is generally in some time you can do it. In small animals you may do it, because in large animals frame wrapping is not required. Because if it is circular fixator, it itself will protect the site from the coming in contact with this ground. That will protect it. You may have to simply wrap a bandage just around the wound site, just below the ESF external components. Either it is linear or circular. And exercise should be restricted. So it is, animal may be able to walk, will be in the immediately after fixation, but it doesn't mean that you allow unrestricted movement. That unrestricted movement may destabilize the fracture. Technique. So initial stabilization is important, But as gradually after 10-15 days, you can gradually increase the exercise, because it is true exercise is going to enhance healing. Because minimum some amount of micro motion at the fracture site, it will stimulate the bone formation. So that way, weight bearing and slight movement is not a problem, but it should not affect the fixation. And that is what is required. So initially you have to restrict it, gradually can increase. And pin removal and frame removal, you have to keep on taking the radiograph at least maybe in 15 days interval till the healing occurs. In dogs and small animals like cows and all, that healing can occur very fast. In dogs, in young animals, even within 2 to 3 weeks also healing can occur. You can remove the fixation. Maybe in cows, maybe 4 to 6 weeks may be required, and in large animals, 2 to 3 months generally it requires. Not able to heal by 2 to 3 months, heal later on. It is either it is non-linear or not true. At least 2 to 3 months may be required. During this period, all that you have to take care. And once it is done, healing is there. Then removing the fixator is very simple. You have to cut the pins using a pin cutter, and then if external frame, you can just simply you can pull off. And once you remove the external fixator component, pins can be simply using a pliers. You can pull off the pins. And then through the pin tracks, you can using a syringe and any antiseptic solution like betadine, you can flush the pin tracks. While flushing, it should come out from the opposite side, and it means that there is complete flushing is there. Then you can simply wrap the limb using simple bandage for a few days. That would be enough. Exceptionally, in very rare cases, and there is complete union is not guaranteed or doubtful. In such cases, you may go for again. If you have to remove the fixator early, then you may go provide some additional splint support, and you can remove the bandage, change the splint and bandage after a few days. Generally, it is not required. What are the complications of ESF? Instability at the fracture site, pin loosening, pin tract osteolysis, pin tract infection, implant failure, osteomyelitis, and delayed and non-union. These are all complications. But of course, it is not the complications occurring in every case. In one case, some complication may occur. In another case, some other complication. But as far as our experience goes, in small animals, young animals, like less body weight, that there will be least complications. Complications are more in heavy animals. That is mainly because of instability. Whatever the fixation technique, if it is not stable enough, the complications will be more. Pin tract sepsis is the most common. It is mainly caused due to necrosis and infection of soft and osseous tissue while passing the pin. That osteolysis is not an issue, and you have to daily address it. Once you remove the fixator, and it will automatically vanish within a few weeks. So it is not an issue. And in horses, they're poor when compared to bovines, they're poor tolerance to ESF of the tibia. However, can be used for forelimb distal hind limb fractures. Most common complication is sepsis, non-union, fractures through the pinhole, and laminitis. Laminitis of the contralateral limb is very common in horses. Of course, it can be seen in cattle also. But why horses? Because the horses spend most of their time standing, unlike in bovines. Bovines, most of the time they lie down, and the weight is not actually all the time, it is not put on the limb. Whereas in equines, they stand for 24 hours. So that is why the contralateral limb is subjected to more stress, and its laminitis will develop. So that has to be taken care from the beginning itself. When you are treating a fracture in a horse, in a heavy animal, along with the fractured bone, you have to take care of the contralateral limb also. In ruminants, fixation, pinning, and casting is commonly used, and most common complication is pin tract osteolysis, sepsis, and pin loosening. And complications that are not caused by fixator instability are the result of weakening at the level of the pin bone interfaces. The weakening in the pin bone interfaces may be at the level of the pin bone interface. It may be like, there may be crack or fracture. may occur, or the fracture bone may occur in certain times. These are the rare cases. Complications can be avoided by proper pin insertion technique that reduce the skin tension. Means by release incision, you have to give release incision, soft tissue trauma should be less, and you have to use proper selection of the pin, proper diameter of the pin, and using the technique. You go by, you don't use very low RPM. You have to use it, and rotations per minute. It should not be very fast. Go step by step. Pour the cold normal saline and interrupted pinning. You have to do it, and that way you can reduce the trauma. And by you have to select the pin properly and fixator configuration also. So if, for example, if in a large animal, if you use a unilateral fixator design, naturally it is going to fail. It is not strong enough. So that way you have to fixator configuration and ancillary implants. Sometimes we, for example, as I said, orthopedic wiring. If you are not done orthopedic wiring properly, for example, tibial fracture, you have not brought the fragments together, not aligned, so chances of healing may not be there. So that is why certain time smaller technique is important. To conclude, ESF is very versatile and has several advantages, and it is particularly useful to treat open infected fractures both in small and large animals. While standard ESF designs are available in the market for small animal applications, and large animal fixators are not readily available. But fortunately, now one company especially, they are now our design, linear and circular fixators, they are actually manufacturing and supplying. Now it is available on demand, not readily available. But in all the designs, all the fixators, they are not available. That is the main, drawback in large animal fixation. And epoxy pin fixation is a very simple, effective, and economical method, which can be constructed as per the demand of the case to treat open fractures in small animals and also in young cattle, buffaloes, and foals. Most of them can be treated in animals weighing about 100-150 kg. Almost every fracture can be treated, even if it is severely infected compound fracture of in any bone, it can be treated very easily. And these techniques, and most importantly, and our surgeons should be trained to use these different ESF techniques, and then only probably we will be able to succeed in treating many of the cases. Thank you all. Thank you very much for your patient hearing. And if you have any queries, or most welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, sir, Aital, sir?
Yes.
Sir, are you using handle or power wheel, sir?
Hello?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, are you using hand drill or power drill?
No, I suppose I have told you hand drill should never be used. Hand drill should never be used in external skeletal fixation. It is always.
Thank you, Atal sir, for this wonderful webinar. Installation.
Any other query?
Sir, I would like to talk. Sir, thank you very much, sir, for your very elaborative and informative lecture you have given.
Thank you.
In orthopedics itself is a challenge, and in that one, large animal orthopedics is very, very, very challenging. And you have given a lot of live examples, sir. And I thank you very much for an elaborative lecture. And I thank our ISVS President, Simrat Sagar Singh sir, and Deepak Patil, Executive Secretary, and ISVS Hisar and the entire team Lovas, who are all actively involved in conducting this webinar, sir. And thank you very much, sir. It was really, really wonderful. And I thank all the behind this successful conduct of this very, very useful webinar. So in the COVID lockdown crisis. So can
Thank you, sir. Sir, I would like to thank, express sincere thanks to Dr. Simrat Sagar Singh, President ISVS, Dr. D.B. Patil, sir, Executive Secretary ISVS, Dr. Shobha Javre, Neeraj Arora, Dr. Devesh, Dr. Senthil Kumar, Dr. Nitin Bhatia for their trust, continuous inspiration and support for organizing this ISVS webinar. I also extend my sincere thanks to Dr. Gurdayal Singh sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Lala Lajpat Rai University of Veterinary and Animal Sciences Institute, Dr. D.P. Sharma sir, Dean Kumar, Dr. Ashok Kumar sir, Professor and Head Veterinary Surgery and Radiology for extending facilities and technical support to organize this ISVS webinar. I also extend my deepest thanks to Dr. H.P. Aithal sir, Principal Scientist IVRI Pune for accepting our proposal to deliver very informative webinar and share his experiences in veterinary orthopedics, which may be very much helpful for the veterinary surgeons. Especially, I am thankful for core of my heart for my team workers, Dr. Nilesh Sindhu, webinar coordinator, Assistant Professor, Department of Veterinary Medicine, Sahil, hard in organizing this webinar and making it successful. Lastly, I am thankful to all the participants who shared valuable time for listening patiently, enriching themselves to upgrade knowledge, technical skills in veterinary orthopedics. Thank you each and everyone who directly or indirectly supported us to make this webinar a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
See you soon.
Sure.
And we will plan for next series also for webinar.
Yeah.
One more information is there. We are in the process of compiling the Luvas newsletter. So please send the ISVS newsletter. So please send the information for the ISVS newsletter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for sharing such a wonderful information.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you, everybody. Thank you.